15-year-old daughter of a Vatican worker who vanished more than 3 decades ago.
The Vatican has long insisted it had nothing to do with the disappearance of...
The Vatican may not be what you think it is. From hiding Jesus' marriage to locking up a time machine, to changing the name of the Son of God's name to helping many Nazi criminals escape. These are the 15 secrets the Vatican doesn't want you to know. And starting at number 15 is the legend of the Forbidden Archives. Number 15, the Forbidden Archives. The Forbidden Archives hold a wealth of knowledge that has been safeguarded for centuries. In the Forbidden Archives, there exists a secret that challenges the very foundations of Christianity. These ancient texts, long kept hidden from the public eye, offer alternative perspectives on faith and the origins of the Church itself. They also raise intriguing questions about the essence of faith and its interpretation. In addition to that, these ancient texts delve into the mysteries of the early Christian era, exploring ideas that may challenge our conventional beliefs. Imagine discovering texts that shed new light on the life and teachings of Jesus Christ, offering insights that differ from what we have come to accept as the norm. These alternative perspectives ignite curiosity and compel us to question the narratives we have been taught. The existence of these hidden texts within the Vatican's archives has also raised thought-provoking questions on how these texts align with the established doctrine of the Church, and what their revelation would mean for the millions of faithful believers around the world. It is within these forbidden archives that the clash between tradition and the new revelations becomes apparent. Because the Vatican is widely regarded as the custodian of the Christian faith, it has been tasked with the responsibility of preserving these historical authenticities, while balancing the potential impact on the beliefs of millions. And the scholars and theologians entrusted with access to these secret texts have always engaged in intense debates, striving to unravel the truths they contain. Their mission is to bridge the gap between established doctrine and the alternative perspectives offered by the ancient manuscripts. Yet the Vatican guards these secrets with utmost vigilance because the revelation of such texts could lead to widespread controversy and disruption within the Church and beyond. However, ancient texts aren't the only secrets the Vatican has been hiding from us, because coming up next is number 14, the Secretive Council. This group of influential figures within the Church shapes the course of history and the direction of the Catholic faith itself. In a chamber surrounded in secrecy, the members of the Secret Council gather, with their hushed voices resonating through the air. These individuals, carefully chosen for their wisdom and influence, engage in private debates and discussions that shape the direction of the Church's teachings and policies. These discussions and debates stir up friendships and rivalries, sometimes personal ambitions and differing opinions clash, creating tensions that could disrupt harmony. However, their shared dedication to the Church's mission acts as a guidance force, bringing them together towards a common goal. Well, as long as this secret council is not planning the end of the world, then we should be able to sleep well at night. However, the next shocking secret will definitely keep you up at night. Number 13, the Time Travel Machine. Yes, you heard that right. Tucked away from prying eyes, the remarkable invention, kept under lock and key, holds the power to transport its users through the fabric of time itself. Imagine the possibilities of stepping into the time travel machine. You could witness the construction of the magnificent St. Peter's Basilica firsthand, or even stand among the ancient Romans in the bustling streets of ancient Rome. However, none of that would be possible because the Vatican safeguards this technology with utmost secrecy. Why the Vatican keeps a breathtaking technology like this is capable of changing our idea of science, technology, and our very reality is unclear. But one thing is clear: the issue of the Vatican having a time machine has made theologians, scientists, and even the highest authorities of the Church engage in intense debates about the moral implications of this groundbreaking technology if it should be out in the public. Number 12, the Posthumous Trial. Moving on to the next item on the list is the posthumous trial, a fascinating incident that exemplifies the eccentricity ingrained in the spirit of Vatican City. In January 1897, Pope Stephen VI, who succeeded the late Pope Formosus, made the decision to proceed with this trial, which took place during a period of political instability lasting nearly a century. Formosus faced several accusations, some of which include perjury and illegal assent to the papacy, and holding multiple positions simultaneously. However, what distinguishes this trial as a significant historical event is the fact that it took place 7 months after Formosus had passed away, Many believe that the trial was a vengeful act against Formosus for betraying Lambert and appointing Carthenia as emperor. The body of Formosus was exhumed from his tomb and presented before the papal court. Ultimately, the court declared him guilty, stripped his corpse of its papal vestments, and Pope Stephen removed 3 fingers from Formosus's right hand. These 3 fingers were the fingers Formosus used for blessings during his lifetime. Formosus's body was then buried in a foreign cemetery, only to be dug up once more, tied to weights, and thrown into the Tiber River. There are even accounts of his body washing up on the riverbanks and allegedly performing miracles. The miracles and the brutal nature of the trial turned the population of Rome against Pope Stephen, resulting in his deposition and imprisonment. The infamous pope was eventually strangled to death. After his death, Pope Theodore II subsequently took his place, annulled the cadaver synod, and rehabilitated Formosus, allowing his body to be buried once again in St. Peter's Basilica. In the end, the story is proof that the biggest and most powerful organization in any society is the people. This is as long as they stand and fight together in one voice. Before we move on to the next secret on our list, we need you to answer one question. How many books are there in the Bible? 66, right? Well, what if we told you that the original Bible had 80 books and not the 66 we've come to know? The question now is, what happened to the other 18? Number 11, the Apocrypha books. During this period of time, the Vatican made the decision to remove 14 books from the Bible without providing any logical explanation for this action. The only justification they offered was that these 14 books were considered valuable for instruction, but were somehow deemed good enough to be included in the Bible. And ever since the removal of these books, the Vatican has kept them hidden from the public eyes, even going as far as erasing them from the public's memory. In other words, this is to say that when the Bible was translated from Latin to English in 1611, it consisted of 80 books. Today, though, we have 66 books, and the set of 14 books which were removed are now referred to as the Apocrypha, or hidden. These books include Ezra, Tobit, Judith, and the Wisdom of Solomon, Songs of the Three Holy Children, Bel and the Dragon, Maccabees, and Prayer of Menses. Another intriguing fact is that before the removal of these 14 books, the name of Jesus was spelled as I-E-S-U-S. This makes you wonder just what power the Church has that it deemed itself powerful enough to not only change the name of the Son of God, but its pronunciation as well. In addition to this, there are many theories regarding the reasons behind the removal of these books from the Bible. Some speculate that the content of these books did not align with the narrative of the Catholic Church, while others believe that the books made the Bible excessively lengthy and intricate, leading to their exclusion. Also, many revelations from the Wisdom of Solomon, where it appears he talked of Jesus, despite Jesus not being around until 800 years after he died. However, these remain mere assumptions, as the true reasons behind the removal of these 14 books remain unknown. Now, if you thought removing a number of books from the Bible was shady, the next secret will shake the foundations of your faith. Number 10, the marriage of Jesus. Have you ever wondered if there was a narrative about Jesus that we didn't know? Well, there is speculation that Jesus might have been married. This long-standing rumor suggests that Jesus married Mary Magdalene and had children, with supposed written evidence supporting this notion. A manuscript dating back to the 6th century, translated from Greek to the ancient language of Syriac, supposedly unveils the story of Jesus Christ's marital union. However, this account is absent from the Bible, which only provides detailed narratives of his birth and death, while neglecting the 30 years in between. Referred to as the Lost Gospel, this manuscript portrays Jesus as being with sexual desires who developed a romantic relationship with Mary Magdalene and fathered their offspring. Naturally, this topic sparks controversy within the Church. Nevertheless, there are several reasons why the reliability of this manuscript is questionable. While it's a genuine artifact housed in the British Library, its origins and authorship remain unknown. Furthermore, the manuscript suggests that Mary Magdalene held a significant position as the chosen one of God and a co-redeemer of humanity, implying equal importance to Jesus. Unsurprisingly, this notion clashes with the beliefs of the Vatican. Some historians speculate that Jesus may have lived a human life that aligns with the common experiences, a perspective that the Vatican may wish to keep concealed. Number 9. The Grand Grimoire. Within the depths of the Vatican archives lies another secret that the Church guards with utmost caution, an ominous artifact known as the Grand Grimoire. This book is infamous for its collection of the most perilous and potent spells ever to exist, making it one of the most heavily guarded objects in the Vatican. Allegedly written around 1520 by a controversial figure named Humorous of the Bests, who claimed to be possessed by Satan. The Grand Grimoire's content predominantly comprises biblical Hebrew or Aramaic text. Renowned as the Red Dragon, the Grand Grimoire has gained legendary status as one of the most formidable occult books in existence. Contained within its pages are instructions for crafting magical talismans and amulets, methods for conjuring spells to increase one's chances of winning lotteries, and even techniques for communicating with spirits and demons. Additionally, the book includes spells purported to make individuals fall in love or render themselves invisible. However, the most nefarious aspect of this centuries-old scripture lies in its detailed method for summoning Lucifer and striking a pact with him. Numerous copies of this terrifying book were produced after its publication, but experts argue that these versions are likely counterfeit or altered to render the spells and summonings ineffective. Such alterations were likely made to prevent individuals from harnessing these spells for malicious purposes and wrongdoing. Nonetheless, historians maintain that these versions may still possess some degree of power, though it is widely believed that the original manuscript, currently in the possession of the Catholic Church, remains the most potent and efficacious. Now, hiding a book that could be used to summon the devil is pretty understandable, but falsely diagnosing children who were not mentally ill with mental illness and forcing them to endure awful treatments just for their own gain, that's something no sanctuary of God should be accused of. But that's exactly what the Vatican did during the early decades of the 20th century. Number 8. The case of Duplessis orphans. During the 1930s and 1940s, Quebec experienced a conservative revolution led by Premier Maurice Duplessis, which ushered in a period known as the Great Darkness. With the support of the Catholic Church, Duplessis held the position of Quebec's premier from 1936 to 1959. His tenure was marked by controversies, particularly concerning the mistreatment and corruption surrounding the Duplessis orphans. Between 1940 and 1960, social services in Quebec were scarce, and the Roman Catholic Church predominantly provided such services to the population. Exploiting the situation, Duplessis devised a disturbing scheme to generate profit. He specifically targeted socially vulnerable groups, particularly unwed mothers and orphans. Collaborating with the church and maternity homes, many mothers were persuaded to relinquish their children to the Quebec orphanage system. The children placed within this system were falsely diagnosed with mental illness they did not possess. This fabrication was solely motivated by financial gain, as subsidies for orphans amounted to a mere 1.25 cents per day, while those allocated for mentally ill patients were 2.75 cents per day. Consequently, these unfortunate children endured unnecessary suffering, including lobotomies and electroconvulsive therapy, which they did not require. They were subjected to physical, mental, and sexual abuse for numerous years. Approximately 20,000 children became victims of this deplorable scheme. However, many survivors eventually found their voices and courageously demanded justice and compensation for the horrors they endured. The Duplessis Orphan Committee, consisting of 3,000 victims of this scheme, exerted pressure on the Canadian government to ensure their quest for justice was acknowledged and served. Ultimately, justice was indeed delivered to the survivors, providing them with some semblance of closure and recompense for their suffering. Number 7. The Vatican's complicity in aiding Nazis. The dark history of the Vatican is replete with crimes against humanity, but perhaps the most abhorrent is its clandestine support lent to the Nazis. It was widely acknowledged that the Vatican remained silent in the face of the unspeakable atrocities committed by Nazi soldiers during the war. They turned a blind eye to the persecution carried out under Hitler's regime. After World War II came to an end, thousands of defeated Nazi soldiers sought escape routes to South America, commonly referred to as the Rat Line. This was not a meticulously organized system, but rather a collaboration involving various institutions established post-war. Numerous war criminals sought refuge abroad, fleeing Europe with the assistance of the Catholic Church. Among them were high-ranking Nazi officers, such as Klaus Barbie, infamously known as the Butcher of Lyon, who found refuge in Bolivia. Adolf Eichmann, the orchestrator of the Holocaust, escaped to Argentina. Joseph Mengele, the sadistic doctor from Auschwitz, initially took shelter in South Tyrol, before eventually ending up in Brazil. Walter Roth, the inventor of mobile gas chambers responsible for the murder of 97,000 people, fled to Chile with assistance from the Vatican. In his book, Harvard researcher Gerald Steinecker claimed that certain members of the Red Cross displayed exceptional sympathy toward the Nazis, supplying them with travel documents to aid their escape. Furthermore, Steinecker asserts that the Vatican knowingly assisted many Nazi fugitives driven by the hope of reviving European Christianity. Number 6. The Leaks Scandal. The Vatican leaks, also known as the Vati Leaks, pertains to a series of leaks within the Vatican that rocked the institution in 2012. This scandal involved the exposure of leaked documents that unveiled shocking incidents of corruption within the Vatican. It all began with a television program called The Untouchable, which served as the catalyst for subsequent revelations. Soon after, a book titled His Holiness the Secret Papers of Benedict XVI was published, revealing highly controversial and confidential correspondences and memos between Pope Benedict and his secretary. The book shed light on various aspects, including the Pope's finances and accounts of bribes given to secure an audience with him. Additionally, letters from Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano exposed an extensive corruption scheme within the Holy See, involving inflated contract prices, power struggles, jealousy, political enemies, and factional infighting. Vati Leaks also brought to light a document describing a discussion with Cardinal Paolo Romeo, who allegedly predicted the Pope's demise within 12 hours. Aside from financial crimes and the alarming death threat, an internal investigation conducted by the Vatican uncovered yet another scandal. The investigation revealed that homosexual clergy members within the church were being blackmailed by external forces. Although this information did not necessarily have fatal consequences, the frenzy surrounding the leaks was primarily due to the accuracy of the revelations. Pope Benedict himself dismissed the information as false, exaggerated, and baseless rumors. However, in response to the escalating situation, a meeting involving high-ranking officials of Vatican City took place on July 26th. A few months later, 2 Vatican aides, Paolo Gabriele, the Pope's personal butler, and a computer specialist at the Secretary of State, were convicted, both receiving relatively light sentences. However, despite all the clear evidence before him, the Pope still chose to pardon them. Number 5. The Zone Exorcist Army. In the modern era of psychology and neuroscience, most people dismiss the practice of exorcism as a plot twist in horror movies or as a relic from the Middle Ages when the concept of mental health and diseases were not well understood. However, surprisingly, this practice is still very much alive and thriving within the Catholic Church, despite the widespread ignorance surrounding it. Father Gabriel, who passed away in 2016, held the position of the former chief exorcist at the Vatican, and reportedly performed an astonishing 130,000 exorcisms during his tenure. Contrary to the perception that casting out demons is an archaic ritual, a BBC report revealed that in 2018 the Vatican welcomed 250 priests from various parts of the world to attend an annual exorcism school. The Church believes that cases of demonic possession have significantly increased in recent years. Pope Francis himself has advised people to seek help from an exorcist in genuine cases of spiritual disturbances. Although the practice of exorcism is controversial, often viewed as sensationalized and potentially abusive, it's even been performed by popes in the previous decade. Father Gabriel Amonth, who died in 2016, was the former chief exorcist at the Vatican. He recounted an incident involving Pope John Paul II attempting to drive a demon out of a woman. Despite her frantic screaming, contortions, and drooling, the Pope was unsuccessful in freeing her from possession. Father Amoth claimed that she remained possessed and even displayed extraordinary abilities, such as walking up walls. He then took it upon himself to complete what John Paul had begun. There are even suspicions that Pope Francis himself performed a public exorcism on a man in a wheelchair back in 2013. While psychiatrists and psychologists may voice their objections, the Vatican remains steadfast in its position of exorcism and intends to continue carrying out this ritual in the future. Number 4. The monetary gains. The Vatican's involvement in monetary gains from the Holocaust and the smuggling of Nazis out of Europe raises questions about its actions. It suggests that the Vatican may have been involved not only in assisting Nazis with looted items, but also in laundering gold, art, and other valuable properties belonging to Jewish families and other victims of the Holocaust. In an opinion piece for the Washington Post, Gerald Posner elaborated on the Vatican's reluctance to engage in restitution efforts or open up its secretive archives in his book, God's Bankers. Posner suggests that the Vatican's intentions might have been more sinister than merely helping Nazis retain stolen family heirlooms. It is alleged that Bernardino Nogara, a financial advisor at the Vatican, was a spy for the Third Reich. Nogara and the Nazis devised a scheme wherein the Vatican invested in Italian insurance companies. These companies held on to the assets from the life and insurance policies of murdered Jews, while the Vatican as an investor did not have to contribute any of the profits from this scheme. This indicates that the Vatican not only provided safe passage for Nazi soldiers, but also speculated on the lives of Jews, profiting directly from the Holocaust. These revelations provoke speculation about the extent of the Vatican's involvement in other activities during that time. Number 3. The long history of child abuse. The Catholic Church has been grappling with allegations of sexual abuse for several decades. These allegations have emerged from various places, including towns in the Australian countryside and schools in Ireland, garnering significant media attention and horrifying testimonies. The continuous spotlight on these matters has shaken the faith of many individuals. Initially coming to light in the United States in the 1980s, the most egregious cases unfolded in Ireland during the 1990s. The disgraceful case of priest Brendan Smith even led to the downfall of the Irish government in 1994. It was apparent that there were no policies in place to protect children, and reporting crimes against children to the Vatican was not mandatory. And as a result, church leaders have been apologizing for these crimes for many years. All of these revelations, though they would have been impossible without the Boston Globe newspaper, which played a pivotal role in exposing the widespread pedophilia within the church, urging victims to come forward and demand justice between 2000 and 2010. Numerous settlements were reached between the victims and various dioceses in the United States. In the 1990s, similar stories emerged from Argentina, Australia, and other countries. It was in light of this case that the Archbishop of Vienna was forced to resign amidst sexual abuse allegations in 1995. The Boston Globe's investigative reporting shed light on how priests involved in sexual abuse were often moved around rather than being held accountable. It was reported that nearly 4,000 priests had been accused of sexual abuse in the last 50 years, involving approximately 10,000 victims, mostly young boys. In 2019, Pope Francis pledged that all abusers would be punished, but there seemed to be a lack of accountability for bishops. As a matter of fact, it appears that when the Vatican speaks about punishing sexual abusers, they actually mean becoming a sanctuary for many pedophiles. Number 2. The Rwandan Genocide. In 2017, the Pope extended a heartfelt apology to the victims of the Rwandan genocide, but one may question whether such an apology is sufficient compensation for the immense suffering and pain endured. It is widely acknowledged that members of the Catholic Church bore some responsibility for the high death toll during the 1994 genocide in Rwanda. Priests, nuns, and clergy members exacerbated the situation for the Tutsi ethnic group, as they were targeted and killed by Hutu extremists. This wave of violence was ignited by the assassination of the Rwandan president, which led to orchestrated mass killings fueled by radio propaganda and the involvement of the Presidential Guard. Military personnel compelled Hutus to carry out the murder of their Tutsi neighbors. Disturbingly, numerous priests and nuns were not only killed but also actively participated in mass murder. Tragically, thousands of Tutsis seeking refuge in churches were mercilessly slaughtered, with the Nataram Catholic Church alone witnessing the brutal killing of approximately 5,000 people in August 1994. Disturbing reports indicate that Father Athasani ordered the bulldozing of the church where 2,000 Tutsis had sought shelter, according to charges issued by the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. Father Wenceslas and Munyeshyaka were implicated in drafting kill lists and perpetuating sexual violence against women. The church's long-standing political ties to the ruling Hutus seem to have compromised its integrity. Subsequently, Catholic bishops in Rwanda offered apologies for these atrocities and sought forgiveness from God for their sins. Number 1. Pope Joan. According to legend, Pope Joan was a female pope who allegedly ruled over the Vatican for an unknown period of time. This tale gained popularity during the Middle Ages and spread throughout Europe for centuries. While some people believed it to be true, modern scholars consider it to be a fabricated story. Pope Joan is portrayed as an exceptionally gifted woman who disguised herself as a man to utilize her abilities. She swiftly ascended through the ranks of the church and eventually became elected as a pope. However, her true gender was revealed when she gave birth during a procession, leading to her demise. Historians remain uncertain about the circumstances of her death, whether it was of natural causes or if she was intentionally murdered. It's said that the church avoided the spot where she gave birth during processions and subsequently removed her from official records. Furthermore, a ritual was established to ensure that all future popes would be male. In the 13th century, Martin of Opava introduced additional details about this enigmatic female pope, suggesting her birthplace as John Anglicus of Mainz. However, by the 16th century, both Catholic and Protestant writers began to question the authenticity of the story and ultimately concluded that it was likely a work of fiction. So there you have it, folks, the 15 secrets the Vatican does not want you to know. Which of these secrets scared you the most? Ours was definitely the legend of Jesus' marriage. Kinda gives you the idea of where Dan Brown got his inspiration from when he wrote the Da Vinci Code. Don't forget to share your thoughts on these secrets in the comments section. See you soon.